What's up, Wrestlingverse family? Welcome back to the channel, and if you just clicked on this video, you are about to dive into one of the most shocking, most game-changing, and most absolutely monumental moments in WWE history. I'm talking about Solo Sikoa taking over the Bloodline following Roman Reigns' devastating defeat at the hands of Bronson Reed at Crown Jewel. Family, the wrestling world has been turned upside down, and we need to break down every single detail of this incredible story. Before we get into this massive shift in WWE power dynamics, make sure you obliterate that like button, smash that subscribe button, and destroy that notification bell because here at Wrestlingverse CC, we bring you all the most important wrestling news and storyline developments. Drop a comment below telling me if you think Solo is the right person to lead the Bloodline or if this is the beginning of the end for the faction. Let's dive deep into this historic moment. Family, to truly understand the magnitude of what just happened, we need to talk about what the Bloodline has meant to WWE over the past few years. The Bloodline, led by Roman Reigns as the tribal chief, has been the most dominant faction in modern WWE history. They've held championships, they've main evented premium live events, they've been the centerpiece of WWE programming, and they've created some of the most compelling storylines we've seen in decades. Roman Reigns has been the undisputed leader, the head of the table, the man everyone acknowledged as the alpha of the entire WWE roster. Roman's reign at the top has been legendary, family. We're talking about over 3 years of dominance, breaking records that may never be broken again, defeating every challenger that stepped up to face him. Roman didn't just hold championships, he embodied what it meant to be WWE's top star. His presence, his aura, his ability to make everyone around him better, that's what made the Bloodline so special. But every empire eventually faces a challenge, and at Crown Jewel, that challenge came in the form of Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed is an absolute monster, family. This Australian powerhouse has been on a path of destruction since making his presence felt on the main roster. Standing over 6 feet tall and weighing over 300 pounds, Reed combines size, power, and shocking athleticism in a package that makes him one of the most dangerous superstars in WWE. His tsunami splash from the top rope has ended careers and put champions on the shelf. When Reed targets someone, they usually don't walk away unscathed. The match at Crown Jewel between Roman Reigns and Bronson Reed was highly anticipated, family. Roman was defending not just his championship but his legacy, his position as tribal chief, and the entire foundation of the Bloodline's dominance. Reed was looking to cement himself as a top-tier main eventer by taking down the biggest name in the business. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and everyone knew this match was going to be an absolute war. And family, the match delivered everything we expected and more. These two absolute beasts went to war in the ring, trading devastating moves, hitting each other with everything they had. Roman hit multiple Superman punches, multiple spears, everything in his arsenal, but Bronson Reed kept getting up, kept coming forward, kept bringing the fight to the tribal chief. Reed hit Roman with power moves that shook the ring, splashes that crushed Roman's ribs, and strikes that echoed throughout the arena. The finish of the match was absolutely shocking, family. Bronson Reed climbed to the top rope, the crowd was on their feet knowing what was coming, and he launched himself through the air with the tsunami splash. All 300+ pounds came crashing down on Roman Reigns with devastating force. The referee counted 1, 2, 3. Bronson Reed defeated Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel. The arena erupted in shock, the commentary team couldn't believe it, and the wrestling world collectively gasped as the tribal chief had fallen. The immediate aftermath of that loss was chaos, family. Roman laid in the ring, completely devastated, not just by the physical beating he took but by the reality that he had lost. For someone who had been so dominant for so long, who had made his entire identity about being the head of the table and the tribal chief, this loss represented more than just a defeat. It represented a crack in the armor, a chink in the foundation of everything the Bloodline had built. Solo Sikoa was at ringside for that match, family, and the cameras captured his reaction. You could see the wheels turning in his head, you could see him processing what had just happened, and you could see something shift in his eyes. Solo had been Roman's enforcer, the muscle of the Bloodline, the silent assassin who did the dirty work. But in that moment, watching Roman get pinned, watching the supposed unstoppable tribal chief fall, Solo saw an opportunity. The real drama began on the following Friday Night SmackDown, family, and what transpired was absolutely explosive. Roman Reigns came out to address the WWE Universe about his loss at Crown Jewel. You could see the frustration on his face, the anger in his eyes, the wounded pride of a man who wasn't used to losing. Roman started cutting a promo about how the loss was a fluke, how Bronson Reed got lucky, how he would reclaim his position at the top of WWE. But then Solo Sikoa's music hit, family, and the entire dynamic shifted. Solo walked out with a different energy than we'd ever seen from him before. This wasn't the silent enforcer following orders, this was a man with purpose, a man with something to say, and a man who was about to change everything. The crowd didn't know what to expect as Solo entered the ring and stood face to face with Roman Reigns. What happened next will be talked about for years, family. Solo grabbed a microphone and did something he rarely does, he spoke. And what he said shook the foundation of the bloodline to its core. Solo told Roman that his time as tribal chief was over, that his loss at Crown Jewel proved he could no longer lead the family, that weakness had been exposed and the bloodline needed stronger leadership. The crowd was absolutely stunned. You could hear gasps throughout the arena as Solo challenged Roman's authority. Roman's reaction was a mix of shock and rage, family. He couldn't believe what he was hearing from someone he considered his right-hand man, someone he had elevated, someone he had trusted. Roman got in Solo's face and reminded him of everything he had done for him, how he had brought Solo into the bloodline, how he had given him opportunities. But Solo didn't back down, didn't flinch, didn't show any fear of the man who had dominated WWE for years. Then the rest of the bloodline came out, family, and we got our answer about where everyone's loyalties lie. The Usos, Jimmy and Jay, walked down to the ring, and everyone was wondering who they would side with. These are Roman's cousins, they've been by his side for years, but they're also Solo's brothers in the Samoan family. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife as they entered the ring and stood between Roman and Solo. What happened next was the most shocking part, family. Instead of backing Roman, instead of standing with the man who had led them for years, the Usos turned and stood with Solo Sikoa. The message was clear, they had lost faith in Roman's leadership after his defeat, and they were throwing their support behind Solo as the new leader of the bloodline. The look on Roman's face was pure devastation, betrayed by his own family, abandoned by the brothers who had stood with him through everything. Paul Heyman was standing in the corner during all of this, family, and you could see the conflict on his face. Heyman has been Roman's special counsel for years, the voice that elevated Roman's promos, the manager who helped create the tribal chief persona. But Heyman is also a survivor, someone who has always aligned himself with power. When Solo demanded that Heyman acknowledge him as the new tribal chief, the entire arena held its breath waiting for Heyman's response. Paul Heyman, ever the politician, family, looked at Roman with what appeared to be genuine sadness, then turned to Solo and said the words that cemented this takeover. Heyman acknowledged Solo Sikoa as the new tribal chief. The crowd erupted. Roman looked absolutely crushed, and Solo stood tall with the Usos by his side and Heyman as his advocate. The bloodline had a new leader, and the Roman Reigns era had come to a stunning end. Roman didn't take this lying down, family. He challenged Solo right there in the ring, telling him that if he wanted to be tribal chief, he would have to beat him for it. The two men went face to face, nose to nose, and you could feel the intensity radiating off both of them. But before they could come to blows, the Usos intervened, pulling Solo back and telling him that Roman wasn't worth his time right now. The message was clear, Roman was no longer considered a threat, no longer worthy of immediate attention from the new bloodline leadership. Security and officials flooded the ring to separate everyone, family, but the damage had been done. Roman Reigns stood alone in the ring, abandoned by his family, stripped of his position, and facing an uncertain future. The man who had been the most dominant force in WWE for years was now isolated, vulnerable, and facing the biggest challenge of his career. Meanwhile, Solo Sikoa stood on the ramp with the Usos and Paul Heyman, raising his hand in the air as the new tribal chief while the crowd processed this seismic shift in WWE power dynamics. Let's talk about what this means for WWE moving forward, family. For Solo Sikoa, this is the moment that transforms him from an enforcer into a main event star. Taking over the bloodline, deposing Roman Reigns, and establishing himself as the leader of WWE's most dominant faction. That's a star-making moment. Solo has always had the tools, the family pedigree, the intensity, and the in-ring ability to be a top guy. Now he has the platform and the storyline to prove it. For Roman Reigns, this represents the most interesting character development we've seen from him in years. Family. How does the former tribal chief respond to being overthrown by his own family? Does he go on a mission of revenge, trying to reclaim his position? Does he have to rebuild himself from the ground up, proving he deserves to be at the top again? Does he form new alliances with people who have their own issues with the bloodline? The storytelling possibilities are endless and incredibly compelling. The Usos choosing Solo over Roman adds another layer of complexity. Family. Jimmy and Jay have been integral to the bloodline story from the beginning. Their decision to side with Solo suggests they genuinely believe he's the better leader, or perhaps they've been waiting for an opportunity to get out from under Roman's thumb. Either way, their choice makes them complicit in Roman's downfall and creates fascinating dynamics within the family structure. Paul Heyman's betrayal is particularly interesting. Family, because it's so in character for him. Heyman has a history of aligning with whoever holds power, from Brock Lesnar to CM Punk to Roman Reigns. Now he's with Solo Sikoa, and his ability to adapt and survive continues. But you have to wonder if Roman feels more betrayed by Heyman than anyone else, considering their years together and the role Heyman played in building the tribal chief character. The match possibilities coming out of this are absolutely incredible. Family. Roman Reigns vs. Solo Sikoa for control of the bloodline is a dream match that writes itself. These two are going to have an absolute war when they finally collide, and the emotional stakes will make it even more compelling than a standard match. Add in potential involvement from the Usos, from Paul Heyman, and from other wrestlers who have scores to settle, and you have the ingredients for multiple classic matches. There's also the question of who, if anyone, stands with Roman Reigns now. Family. Does he reach out to former enemies who might have common cause against the new bloodline? Does he try to recruit new family members who feel disrespected by Solo's takeover? Or does Roman go it alone, proving he doesn't need anyone and can reclaim his position through sheer force of will? Each option creates different storytelling opportunities that could keep fans invested for months. For Bronson Reed, his role in all of this is fascinating. Family. He's the catalyst for everything that happened, the man who defeated Roman and set this entire chain of events in motion. Does Reed now have a target on his back from the new bloodline? Does he align with Roman against their common enemies? Or does Reed continue his path of destruction, taking out everyone in his way regardless of faction politics? The WWE locker room dynamic completely changes with this development. Family. Every wrestler has to reassess their relationship with the bloodline now that there's new leadership. Some might see Solo as easier to deal with than Roman, others might see an opportunity to strike while the faction is in transition, and still others might try to curry favor with the new tribal chief. The ripple effects of this change will touch multiple storylines across Raw and SmackDown. Social media has been absolutely exploding with reactions to this takeover. Family. Wrestling fans around the world are debating whether Solo is ready for this role, whether Roman's character will be better or worse as a result of this change, and what direction WWE is taking the bloodline storyline. Everyone has opinions, everyone has predictions, and everyone is invested in seeing how this plays out. That's the sign of truly compelling storytelling. The production and execution of this segment was absolutely masterful. Family. From the pacing of the promos to the timing of the music hits to the camera work capturing everyone's reactions, WWE knocked this out of the park. They built tension, delivered shocking moments, and left fans desperate to see what happens next. That's exactly what weekly wrestling television should accomplish, and this segment delivered on every level. Looking at the long-term booking implications, family, this opens up fresh storylines for WWE's top stars while keeping the bloodline relevant. The faction has been central to WWE programming for years, but there was concern about staleness setting in. This shakeup reinvigorates the storyline, creates new dynamics, and ensures that the bloodline will continue to be a driving force in WWE for the foreseeable future. The symbolism of this moment is powerful. Family. In Samoan culture, family and hierarchy are incredibly important. Solo challenging Roman for leadership of the family isn't just about power, it's about respect, tradition, and proving worthiness. The fact that the family chose Solo over Roman suggests they believe he better embodies the qualities a tribal chief should have. That cultural context makes this storyline even richer and more meaningful. From a character standpoint, Solo Sikoa has been perfectly positioned for this moment, family. He's been quietly dominant, handling business in the background while Roman took the spotlight. He's proven himself as a fierce competitor, a loyal soldier, and someone capable of handling pressure situations. Now he gets to step into the spotlight himself and prove he can carry the bloodline into its next chapter. WWE has been building to this whether we realized it or not. The historical significance of this moment cannot be overstated, family. The Bloodline storyline has been one of WWE's greatest long-term narratives, and this represents a major turning point in that story. Years from now, we'll look back at this as one of the defining moments that shaped WWE during this era. This is the kind of storytelling that creates legacy, that becomes part of wrestling history, that fans remember and reference for decades. Wrestling vs. Family. Solo Sikoa taking over the bloodline following Roman Reigns' defeat at Crown Jewel is one of the most significant developments in recent WWE history. This changes everything for multiple characters, creates incredible storytelling opportunities, and ensures that we're going to be glued to our screens for months to come watching this situation develop. The bloodline has new leadership, and the entire WWE landscape has been forever altered. What do you think about this massive power shift, family? Is Solo Sikoa ready to lead the bloodline? Can Roman Reigns reclaim his position as tribal chief? What should happen in the inevitable match between Roman and Solo? Who do you think will ultimately emerge victorious from this family civil war? Drop all your thoughts, predictions, and reactions in the comments below. I want to hear from every single one of you about this game-changing moment. If this breakdown of the Bloodline takeover got you hyped for what comes next, show some love by absolutely destroying that like button. Subscribe to Wrestling vs. CC for continued coverage of this developing storyline and all the biggest moments in WWE. We bring you the most detailed analysis and the most passionate wrestling content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our videos. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know, family. This is the kind of moment that everyone needs to discuss and debate. Follow Wrestling vs. CC on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok for daily updates on the Bloodline situation and all things WWE. We're building the ultimate wrestling community, and I want you to be part of it. Thank you so much for watching, Wrestling vs. Family. Your support means everything, and I love breaking down these historic moments with you. I'll catch you in the next video where we'll continue following the Bloodline saga and covering all the biggest stories in WWE. Until then, acknowledge your new tribal chief, or stand with the deposed Roman Reigns, the choice is yours. Peace out, family.